That's why I asked you to repay the debt. My husband suddenly left me with a huge debt and disappeared. No matter how much I tried to contact him, he never responded. What am I supposed to do now? There's no way I can pay off such a large debt. Luckily, someone was there to encourage me when I felt lost. Mom, cheer up, said my lovely daughter. My name is Mary. I'm 37 years old, working part-time and being a housewife. My husband's name is Jeremy, and we are a family of 3. I met Jeremy at a mixer I attended just to help with the numbers. I was nervous, but Jeremy talked to me and made me feel comfortable. We got along well and decided to exchange contact information. As we continued to talk, we developed a special feeling for each other. It didn't take long for us to start dating. Who would have thought I'd end up in a relationship with someone I met at a mixer? After our first date, I told my older sister Karen about Jeremy. She laughed and said, "Really? I never thought you'd choose a boyfriend from a mixer. I assumed you'd date someone from work or something. I've always been the quiet type, not good at socializing, and rarely attended parties. It was an unexpected twist. You went because you were asked to help with the numbers, right?" She asked. "Exactly," I replied. When I showed her a photo from my date with Jeremy, she said excitedly, "He's so surprisingly handsome." We briefly updated each other about our lives and then parted ways for the day. Karen is not married and doesn't seem to have a boyfriend. She enjoys her single life, finding it more relaxed and comfortable, and shows no particular interest in marrying or having a boyfriend. While I can understand her mindset, my heart is set on a future with Jeremy. If our relationship progresses smoothly and we are blessed with marriage and children, it would be wonderful. On my way home after chatting with Karen, I couldn't help but smile. A few years later, I married Jeremy. I still remember the moment he proposed. I was so emotional that I couldn't hold back my tears. We moved into a new apartment, starting our married life together. Having lived separately before, being with Jeremy every day felt like a dream. Because of our different work hours, we rarely came home at the same time, but we always ate dinner together, slept under the same blanket, and cherished our time together. On our days off, we would relax at home or go for drives, enjoying each other's company. A few months later, we were blessed with a baby girl named Laura. The joy of her birth is something I'll never forget. Our parents and relatives were overjoyed and sent us many congratulatory gifts. Just before Laura was born, I resigned from my job to focus on our family. Jeremy, always thinking of me, helped with housework and taking care of Laura, even when he was tired. "I'll take care of Laura so you can rest for a bit," he would say. I felt so lucky to have married such a wonderful person. Living with Jeremy, who treasured us, was truly heartwarming. However, a few years later, I regretted marrying Jeremy. Several years after Laura's birth, Jeremy suddenly quit his job. He explained to me that he had issues with a new boss at work, which affected his mental well-being, and he reached his breaking point. I understood why he left his job, but I was upset that he hadn't talked to me about it. Our family relied on his salary, and he should have discussed such a big decision with me first. That was so sudden. "Have you already thought about your next job?" I asked. "Yeah, don't worry. I'll figure something out," Jeremy replied vaguely, which didn't ease my worries at all. All I can do now is trust him. Fortunately, Jeremy found a new job quickly, which was a relief. I thought about working too, but since Laura is still young, I want to be home with her. "Is everything okay at the new job? Have you settled in?" I asked. "Yeah, somehow," he replied. "Did something happen? Are you not getting along with your boss or colleagues?" I told you I'm fine. Don't worry so much. "Look, I'll take care of Laura so you can go take a bath," Jeremy said. "Really? Thank you," I responded. He seemed different, but I didn't want to upset him, so I handed Laura to him and went to take a bath. A few days later, Jeremy came home looking sad. As I tried to ask him what happened, I remembered the time he suddenly quit his job. "Did you quit your job again?" I asked, fearing the worst. "Yeah, I did. I just couldn't get along with the people there. I couldn't stand being bossed around by someone much younger than me," he said. "I see, but we'll get through this. We'll find another job. I'll help in any way I can," I reassured him. Suddenly, Jeremy's expression changed, and he raised his voice. "Hey, what's with that look? You don't like that I quit. You eat because I work. You just stay at home and act all high and mighty." He threw his bag onto the table, startling me. "What's gotten into you all of a sudden?" I asked. "Shut up. Just be quiet," he snapped. Jeremy grabbed a whiskey from the fridge and drank it in one gulp. I had never seen him this angry before. I felt terrified. I've always been grateful to him and tried to be supportive. But now, an extremely angry Jeremy shouted at me for a while before plopping down on the sofa, looking grumpy. I was so shocked that I could only accept his words, and this incident created a rift in our relationship. Since then, Jeremy has been in a cycle of finding and quitting jobs. We lived in uncertainty and had many anxious days. "Jeremy, can't you be more serious about your job?" I asked one day. I tried to understand his feelings and said nothing at first, but I couldn't keep silent any longer. "You are annoying. If you have complaints, then you work and earn money. You rely too much on me," he snapped back. "But there's Laura to consider," I replied. "So what's your point?" he retorted. Lately, Jeremy has been losing interest in Laura and seems to be avoiding her. When Laura was born, he took great care of her and was genuinely happy. Now, he feels like a completely different person. No matter how much I pleaded, Jeremy showed no interest in continuing his work. Eventually, I decided to leave Laura with Karen and started working myself. "I'm really sorry for having to leave her with you," I said. "It's okay. Laura and I will wait together," Karen reassured me. Laura had just started kindergarten, so I wasn't too worried about leaving her. I trusted Karen, and Laura was very mature and calm for her age. She even liked reading newspapers and could write long sentences. She was quiet and composed, which made me worry if she'd make friends in kindergarten. But she did, and she enjoyed her time there. Seeing her happy made me feel better about working. I found a job faster than expected and started working full-time. The pay was better than I thought, so even with Jeremy not working, we could manage. The work environment was pleasant, and I enjoyed my busy days. A few years later, Jeremy finally found a stable job. It seemed he had found a place he liked. I felt a huge relief. Jeremy's mood improved, and he started acting like the man I married. He became more considerate, often asking if I was tired or finding things tough. His change surprised me, but it seemed like job stability gave him peace of mind. Laura was growing up healthy, and Jeremy started being a caring father again. Watching them play together warmed my heart. Still, I was anxious about leaving my job and things going back to how they were before, so I continued to rely on Karen for childcare. "How's Laura? Is she doing well?" I asked Karen. "Don't worry, she's playing happily," Karen replied. Knowing Laura was happy made me feel at ease, and I plan to keep depending on Karen's help. I have been thinking about giving Karen something she liked to show my appreciation. Several years passed, and Laura was now in third grade. She went to school every day with great enthusiasm. Our family bond was strong and loving, just like before. I wondered what had caused the past problems between Jeremy and me because our home life felt stable now, almost as if those issues were forgotten. One day, Jeremy suggested, "Ever think about getting a new car?" "A new car?" I asked. "Yeah, Our current car is good, but it's getting old and hard to maintain. Our car was indeed old, and repair costs were piling up. You might be right. Maybe we should consider a new car. I knew you'd agree. By the way, I've already got some catalogs ready, Jeremy said. I was surprised by his eagerness, but we started looking through the catalogs together. Laura, come here. Which car do you want to ride in? Let's decide together, Jeremy called. The three of us enjoyed looking through the car catalogs. However, I couldn't have imagined that this day would mark the beginning of unexpected events. A few months later, the new car we chose was delivered. It was a brand new model costing over $255,000. The loan was under my name because of Jeremy's unstable work history. I was determined to work even harder to pay off the loan, and I believed Jeremy felt the same way. But my hopes were shattered. Jeremy stopped coming home and disappeared along with the new car. Could he have gotten into some trouble? What should I do? Just then, my cell phone rang. It was Jeremy. Hello, Jeremy. What are you doing? Where are you now? I asked, worried. Hey, calm down, he replied. But you disappeared all of a sudden, and the new car is gone. What happened? Did you get into some trouble? I tried to convey how worried I had been, but Jeremy laughed and said something unbelievable. I found a new lover. She's more important to me than you. What? What do you mean? Let me be clear. I've fallen in love with someone else. I've already taken care of the divorce papers. I'd appreciate it if you stopped getting involved. Wait, divorce? I can't believe this. I was shocked by the mention of divorce papers. I remembered a discussion we had during a big fight a while ago. Filing the papers means both parties agreed to the divorce. I deeply regretted letting my emotions take control back then. Oh, by the way, I have a debt. I'm counting on you to repay it. What? How much debt are we talking about? About $400,000, give or take. I'm leaving all the repayments to you. With those words, Jeremy abruptly hung up the phone. I never thought something like this would happen to me. Were all his kind smiles just lies? As these thoughts crossed my mind, I felt the strength drain from my body. Mom, what happened? Laura rushed over, looking concerned as I slumped to the floor. It's okay, honey. Thank you. I tried to put on a brave face, but inside I was filled with anxiety. How will I manage our life now with such a massive debt looming over us? The thought of the $400,000 debt made me feel suffocated. On top of that, there was still the car loan to think about. In a state of panic, I checked my bank balance. I searched everywhere for my ATM card, but couldn't find it. Frantically, I launched my bank app on my smartphone. To my horror, the account balance had significantly decreased. Of course, I had no memory of withdrawing such an amount. Jeremy was the only suspect. I tried to contact him, but of course, there was no response. It's all over, I thought, my mind going blank. I decided to focus on earning money and to keep this a secret from Karen to avoid unnecessary worry. I also kept it from young Laura. A few weeks after Jeremy disappeared, I lost consciousness at work. When I came to, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Where am I? Mary, are you awake, sis? Karen entered the room with a shaken expression, and Laura was standing beside her. It seemed I had fainted due to extreme stress. The doctor told me I needed to stay in the hospital for several days for detailed tests. Hospitalized. What should I do? After you're discharged, let's talk about Jeremy, Karen said. Laura told me everything. Laura told you. I was surprised. Did you know? Actually, I overheard Dad's phone call. Laura said. I was shocked that Laura knew the truth. When it was time for my discharge, I felt down, worried that Karen might scold me for letting Laura find out. The next day, various tests were conducted, and the results showed that my poor health was due to cancer. Fortunately, it was still in the early stages, and there was hope for recovery through surgery. The surgery went well, but returning to work immediately seemed impossible. I had no savings, and medical bills were piling up. During these challenging times, Karen and Laura became my pillars of support. When Laura explained the situation with Jeremy and my health to Karen, she was even more furious than I had expected. Karen tried to locate Jeremy to make him repay the debt and medical bills, but his whereabouts remained unknown. We don't have any leads on Jeremy's current location. What do we do? I asked. Karen had a suggestion. The car that's under your name, Jeremy has it, right? How about we try to get it back? Is that really possible? I asked, surprised. Karen shared more information. Actually, I found out where Jeremy is currently working. He's working for a different company inside the building where I work. Though I usually work remotely, I've seen him there. Then let's go to Jeremy's place right away, I said, eager to confront him. If we didn't take action soon, he might disappear again. Karen stopped me. Don't rush. We need a solid plan, not just a hasty approach. Laura and I have come up with a good idea. That's right, a plan, Laura said, smiling. I couldn't grasp the implications behind their demeanor. Watching them silently, Laura beamed and reassured me, saying, "Don't worry. Everything's set up." I didn't know the specifics, but everything became clear a month later. While at Karen's house, there was a sudden incoming call. Checking the caller ID, it was Jeremy. Initially ignored the call, but it kept coming in repeatedly. Something must have happened. Gathering my courage, I answered. Jeremy pleaded in a frantic voice. "Hey, help me out, please." "What?" "I'll explain everything later. Just get here now. I'm about to be arrested." Jeremy shared his location and quickly ended the call. Having overheard the conversation, Karen and Laura finally revealed the turn of events. Actually, we reported the car as stolen. It was Laura's idea, Karen said. Impressive, right? Laura blushed and looked down. Filled with gratitude, I thanked them and hurried to the place where Jeremy was waiting. The park he specified was surprisingly close to my home. There were police officers gathered around Jeremy, who seemed to be interrogated about something. We hurriedly approached him. First, we explained the situation to the police officers and had them leave. Afterward, Jeremy ushered us into his car and began narrating the events that led to this. A confident-looking woman sat boldly in the passenger seat, her legs crossed, staring at us with a cold gaze. "Thanks for coming, but why did the police come to me?" Jeremy asked, seemingly oblivious to the seriousness of the situation. "Because I reported the car as stolen. After all, that car is mine," I explained. "What? We're divorced, so we have no current ties." Reporting it stolen was the natural course of action. You probably never expected to be reported for car theft. Laura continued the conversation with Jeremy, who was visibly shaken. "Dad, why did you leave us behind? Why won't you pay back the money yourself? Explain." Jeremy let out a sigh and looked at us with an exasperated expression, but remained silent. "If you're just going to remain silent, I'll report it to the police. Do you realize that using my name without permission is a crime?" Hearing this, Jeremy began to talk bit by bit. He mentioned his mistress, Pamela. Apparently, she had recently joined the company where Jeremy worked. They connected during a company welcome party, which developed into a romantic relationship. Shockingly, about 5 months ago, he found out she was pregnant. Looking at Pamela's stomach, it was evident that she was expecting. "So you chose her over us and left," I said. "That's a harsh way to put it, isn't it?" Jeremy replied. "But the fact remains, you left, right?" Karen suddenly interjected. Jeremy seemed taken aback, but Karen ignored his surprised expression and continued her line of questioning. She began to lash out at Jeremy, criticizing his past actions. She pointed out his irresponsible behavior towards the family, his constant job changes, and his quick temper, which often resulted in him raising his voice in anger. Jeremy, deep in thought, or perhaps just tuning her out, bowed his head and remained silent. Pamela's face showed clear irritation at this. She pressed him about the reason for the $400,000 debt, but he stayed mute. Unable to hold back any longer, Pamela revealed a shocking truth. He borrowed money in his wife's name to buy me luxury branded items. I was really lucky. A debt of $400,000 due to gifts for Pamela? What on earth did he buy? From her story, it seemed he purchased several expensive luxury items. It was hard to believe, but what was more curious was how easily Pamela revealed the reason for Jeremy's debt. If they were in cahoots, revealing such information would put them at a disadvantage. While thinking about this, Laura asked Pamela, "Your belly's pretty big. Is it a baby? When are you due?" "In about 5 months, I guess," Pamela replied. Giving birth in 5 months didn't seem right. If she was supposedly impregnated 5 months ago, shouldn't there be more time? Karen noticed this inconsistency too and pressed Pamela further. "Is that baby really Jeremy's? Isn't it odd for the baby to be due in 5 months? Whose child is it?" Karen asked directly. Although surprised, Pamela didn't seem intent on hiding anything. "Actually, the child isn't Jeremy's. I thought about keeping it a secret, but I figured it would be a hassle to get further involved with him, so I'll just spill the beans." "Is that why you were honest about the debt too?" Karen inquired. "Yeah, there's no point being with Jeremy anymore after all," Pamela said with a mocking expression. The atmosphere was heavy and unbearable. I wanted to get away from there right now. Meanwhile, Jeremy stared at Pamela with an incredulous expression. "Hey, what are you talking about? This is a joke, right?" Jeremy asked. "Why would it be a joke?" "I mean exactly what I said," Pamela replied. The tension increased, making the atmosphere even more stifling. Amidst this, Karen took charge of the situation. "Anyway, I'll call the police," she said. "Huh? What are you talking about?" Jeremy asked, panicking. "I couldn't care less about you too, but remember, borrowing money under Mary's name is a crime. Plus, using the car without permission is also a crime, especially since Jeremy and Mary are complete strangers now." Karen instructed me to contact the police. Jeremy and Pamela frantically tried to talk their way out of the situation. However, I ignored their pleas and made the call. After a while, I could hear sirens approaching. This should make them face the consequences. The issues regarding the debt and the car should soon be resolved. I felt a huge relief that things were finally being sorted out. In the end, Jeremy and Pamela faced legal action. They didn't end up in prison, but they had to take responsibility by making compensation payments, repaying the debt, and paying child support. They tried to reduce the payments through lawyers, but a secret recording that Laura had made was used as evidence, so their requests were denied. Laura had made the recording because of a scene from a TV show she had watched with Karen. While I thought she was very quick-witted, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of shows Karen had shown Laura. After all that, Laura and I now live with Karen. Laura didn't face any issues commuting to school since our new home was close to our previous residence. The car was safely returned, and it seems Jeremy is somehow managing the debt. If Jeremy hadn't made those wrong decisions in the first place, he wouldn't have had to face such hardships. In this whole incident, the presence of Karen and Laura was significant, and thanks to them, the situation is heading towards resolution. I'll work hard from now on, hoping for a peaceful life with the two of them.